Patricia Heaton never expected a comedy about a regular Long Island family to change her life forever. But when Everybody Loves Raymond aired in 1996, something magical happened. Audiences instantly connected with the sarcasm, the chaos, and the love behind every dinner table argument. But behind the scenes, it wasn't always as perfect as it looked. Patricia played Debra Barone, the strong-willed wife who tried to hold it all together in a house surrounded by overbearing in-laws and a clueless husband. Ray Romano, who played her husband, wasn't just her on-screen partner. He was also one of the creators. That gave him a lot of power, and at first, Patricia wondered if she'd even last. She later said, "I was the outsider in a group that already had this bond." It was scary. The first season was full of nerves. Patricia worried every week she might be fired. "I'd go home in tears, convinced I had blown it," she admitted years later. The producers were tough, the rewrites were constant, and there was one night early on when a producer pulled her aside and said, "You have to be funnier. We need more from Debra." She didn't cry, not in front of them, but when she got in her car that night, she sat behind the wheel and sobbed. Still, something changed in season 2. Patricia found her rhythm. The writers began to trust her instincts. Audiences adored the way she rolled her eyes, the way she stood her ground, the way she always made sure Debra was more than just the nagging wife. Ray once joked, "Patricia made me funnier by being furious at me." The chemistry was undeniable. But the laughter sometimes hid real tension. Garrett, who played Robert, was outspoken and didn't hold back when he disagreed with the writers. Doris, who played Marie, had strong opinions and a long theater background. Sometimes scenes would go off the rails during rehearsals. Jokes would be cut, tempers would flare, and Patricia, who loved control and calm, struggled with the chaos. Then there was Peter Boyle, the powerhouse who played Frank. His booming voice could quiet a room, and Patricia said, "When Peter got upset, everyone froze." But he also had a huge heart. After a long, difficult shoot, he once left a single white rose in Patricia's dressing room with a note that said, "You held it together. We all see it." Still, the weight of keeping the show on track, of always being Debra, even when she was exhausted, took a toll. By season 5, Patricia was burning out, and one heartbreaking moment, nearly made her walk away from it all. The day Patricia almost quit. It was supposed to be a normal rehearsal, a light episode where Ray forgets an anniversary again. But that day, something felt off. Patricia arrived on set already feeling drained. Her youngest son had the flu, she hadn't slept, and during the table read, the writers kept making changes. 4 times, they rewrote the same scene, and each time, Debra's lines got worse, more angry, less funny. Finally, Patricia stood up, script in hand, and said quietly, "This doesn't feel right. Debra's not a monster." The room went silent. One of the head writers shot back, "It's comedy. It's not that deep." But Patricia didn't laugh. "I know what funny is," she replied, "and making her cruel, isn't it?" Ray stood up. He walked over, and in front of the entire cast and crew, he said, "She's right." It was a small moment, but it changed everything. That day, Patricia earned the full respect of everyone on the team. From then on, Debra's character was handled more carefully, more balance, more heart, and Patricia, who almost walked out, chose to stay. But that wasn't the only challenge. As the seasons passed, behind the scenes, personal struggles started to show. Peter Boyle's health began to decline. Garrett's marriage was falling apart, and Patricia herself was hiding something big, something she wouldn't speak about for years. She felt invisible sometimes. "The men got the attention," she said. "Ray got the interviews. Peter got the praise. I was always just there." At one point, she went 6 episodes without a major storyline. It stung. She fought silently, for herself and for Debra. And when the show finally ended in 2005, Patricia wasn't just relieved, she was broken. No one knew it at the time, but she went straight into therapy. And what she discovered there would lead to a shocking personal decision that fans still talk about today. Fates, fame, and a secret battle after Everybody Loves Raymond ended. Patricia Heaton had a choice: ride the wave of fame or step away and figure out who she really was. For 9 years, she had been Debra Barone, But now, the cameras were off, the applause was gone, and the silence hit her like a wall. She began therapy almost immediately. On the surface, she had it all: a loving husband, 4 sons, an Emmy on the shelf. But deep down, Patricia felt lost. "I had poured so much of myself into the show," she said. "I didn't know where Debra ended, and I began." Then came the biggest surprise. She admitted she'd been battling alcohol quietly for years. Not in wild, headline-making ways. Patricia didn't crash cars or end up in the tabloids, but she'd started to rely on wine to unwind after long days on set. It started small, a glass after dinner, then 2. Then it became routine. By the final season, she realized she needed it just to sleep. And when the show ended, the emptiness made it worse. "I was pouring wine to fill a void," she confessed. "It wasn't just a drink, it was a crutch." In 2018, Patricia shocked fans when she came forward and said she had been sober for a year. But what she didn't reveal until now was how Everybody Loves Raymond had both helped and hurt her. "Success doesn't protect you from pain," she said. "It just gives you a mask." She leaned heavily on her Christian faith during recovery. Prayer, silence, and self-honesty became her new routine. She even wrote letters to her castmates, to herself, to Debra. One letter simply read, "You mattered more than they knew." And yet, the hardest letter was to Ray. Ray Romano had always been more than a co-star. He was her creative partner, her sparring match, her brother in comedy. But they hadn't spoken in years. Not really, not about the deep stuff, until Patricia reached out and asked for coffee. What happened in that quiet LA cafe would change how she saw everything. The coffee that changed everything. It had been over 10 years since Everybody Loves Raymond ended, and Patricia Heaton sat nervously at a small table near the back of a quiet cafe in Studio City. She wasn't sure if Ray would come. Fame had pulled them in different directions. He was doing dramas now, voiceovers, serious roles. She was doing sitcoms again, playing moms, trying to stay relevant in a world that was moving fast. But then the bell above the door rang. Ray walked in, just like he used to, a little late, with a sheepish smile. "Debra," he said, joking. Patricia laughed. "Raymond." They sat, talked. At first it was light stuff. Their kids, new shows, old memories. Then Patricia leaned forward. "I was hurting back then," she said, "and I didn't know how to tell anyone." Ray looked down. "So was I," he admitted. "The show was great, but I felt pressure to be perfect, to carry it all." They sat in silence. Then Patricia did something she hadn't done before. She thanked him for believing in her, for standing up for Debra, for letting her push back. Ray blinked back emotion. "I couldn't have done it without you," he said. "You were the soul of that show." They talked for hours, and in that moment, something healed. Today, at 65, Patricia Heaton isn't chasing roles or awards. She's chasing the truth. She speaks openly about sobriety, about faith, about how comedy saved her and nearly broke her, and about how Everybody Loves Raymond gave her the greatest gift, a voice. A voice she now uses to help others, especially women in Hollywood who feel unseen. Because behind the laugh track, behind the kitchen fights and punchlines, there was a woman who quietly fought to be heard. And now, all these years later, people are finally listening. Patricia Heaton's journey wasn't just about playing Debra Barone. It was about becoming her own person, away from the spotlight. 8. The set of Everybody Loves Raymond may have looked like a perfect sitcom family, but behind the scenes, it was filled with struggles, fears, breakthroughs, and deep emotional growth. She fought for her character. She battled her demons, and in the end, she found peace not through fame, but through honesty. In her words, "You can't change the past, but you can choose what to do with the truth." Today, she's more than just a former sitcom star. She's a survivor, a voice of hope, and a reminder that behind every smile on screen, there's a real story waiting to be told. And Patricia finally told hers. All of it. And now that it's out, we'll never see Everybody Loves Raymond the same way again.